What's going on, guys? Welcome back to #AskGSM here today for August 26, 2020, episode 352. I am Graham GSM Matthews. Hope you guys are doing well. If you want to send in a question to the show for me to answer right here on the show, you could do so by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the #AskGSM. Find me on Facebook as well, facebook.com/Graham.GSM.Matthews. And also drop your question down below in the comment section on this very video. I'll include your question in next week's edition. A bit of a disclaimer here. I am having work done at my house right now, so if there's any loud noises in the background, that's exactly what it is, and I apologize. But I'm going to try to bear through it as much as I can without getting distracted by the noises behind me. Nonetheless, though, we start off with our YouTube questions first from Call Me PSN. Their first question was, how long until the Thunderdome is done for? Not even a week in, we've seen virtual screens showing images of Chris Benoit, the KKK, and even someone being executed. Thankfully, I didn't see that last one. I heard about it on Twitter this morning. I didn't see any images of it. I didn't see any videos of it, which I'm glad about. But it's still pretty fucking gross that anyone would even consider doing that. The Benoit thing, people consider to be a meme. It's still dumb. It's stupid. It's not funny. It may have been funny 5-10 years ago at this point. To do on screen, I mean, come on, man. That's just fucked up. So don't do that. The KKK shit is even worse. And the execution shit was like, it just takes the cake. It's like increasingly getting worse. I mean, wrestling fans are so terrible. And I saw someone else say as well, the NBA has been doing the bubble now for quite some time for their games. And maybe it's just a stricter process to get in. Maybe there's less fans. I don't know exactly how they do it. They do it better. From what I've seen in the bubble, which looks amazing, by the way, it's a really cool concept. All the fans have one standard background, so it all looks like they're actually in the seats. I don't know if they're doing the same thing for the baseball games, but it looks actually pretty cool. At the Thunderdome, everyone's like on a Zoom call. So you could practically put anything you want up on these screens, and it's bound to get through until WWE takes you off. And they can boot you off all they'd like, but the fact the image even made it on there to begin with is the fucking problem. So that's the problem with the whole Thunderdome concept. The Benoit thing was gross. The KKK shit I did see, not as it happened. I didn't see any of this shit as it happened. I don't really pay too much attention to the shit going on in the background, but all this shit is fucking gross, and WWE's got to figure out a stricter process, whether it be only letting in people like friends and family of the superstars, or having, I mean, you can't have someone monitor every single person. There's so many people on these screens. I'm not exactly sure how you rectify it, but they got to figure it out because we're only less than a week into this whole Thunderdome thing. And while I think it's a great idea, and by and large it has come across fairly well in the last, the last 5 days since SmackDown, I thought it came across great at SummerSlam. Some of the canned noise they put in for the promos and stuff like that is incredibly annoying. But for all the other shows that I thought, on the whole though, I thought it came across pretty well. But the images shit has got to stop. I mean, they got to figure shit out to crack down on this stuff to make sure it doesn't happen again. Because that's, for some people, they may not want to watch the show if they're bound to see that shit in the background. Fuck wrestling fans. I mean, that goes for anything. But the fact that WWE's only been doing this for 5 days, and as far as I know, other sports have not had this issue. So it's going to turn WWE off on the idea of doing virtual fans. And they're just not going to do it. They'll just go back to the fucking Performance Center. For their sake, they probably won't, just because the Thunderdome is a better arena. But again, they'll just put the superstars on the screen, or their families, their friends, that we won't be able to go on. Personally, I probably won't do it, just because I'd rather not be sitting in front of a screen watching the show the entire time. I get up, I eat food, I type. I probably wouldn't be a good fit for the Thunderdome. But, again, these fucking people, they ruin a good thing for everyone. Why you gotta go ahead and ruin it? That's my question. So anyway, Call Me PSN's second question. Should fans give the Dark Order another chance, or is it too late because of their rough beginning? They've improved in the ring, and their BTE skits are hilarious, showing that the members have personality. I've been loving, it's very funny you mentioned that, I've been absolutely loving the John Silver Dark Order segments on BTE the last couple of weeks. I just rewatched it last night. The skits from BTE this week, I rewatched them last night with Alexis because she hadn't seen it yet. And we were just dying of laughter. And Colt Cabana's a great, recurring highlight on the show as well. But the Dark Order, and Orange Cassidy too. But the Dark Order has been easily the biggest breath of fresh air on that show. I don't really care what the Young Bucks are doing or even Kenny Omega. Adam Page can be entertaining. The other ones I just don't give a fuck about. Like the whole 50 for 50 shit is just stupid. The Dark Order stuff, though, I mean, I was already a fan of the Dark Order after what they started to do with the whole Exalted One thing. They kind of grew on me at that point. I may be in the minority there, but I mean, I hated them initially. They bored me to fucking tears, and I've said as much here on the show. But after the whole Exalted One beginning, that started the build, that began to build late last year, I got more invested in them. Like, you're right. They have gotten better in the ring, and not just gotten better in the ring, because I think Stu Grayson and Evil Uno are always talented. They've just been given more opportunities to shine in the ring, which is cool to see. But that being said, though, they have been one of the best parts of that show in the last month and a half or so. I just wish we could see more of that personality on the show itself. I would love to see those John Silver segments on Dynamite. The issue is that you can't take them seriously. That's the problem. Because as they currently stand on Dynamite, they're just three losers, Silver, Reynolds, and Alan Angels or whatever. They just get brought in to lose to people. They had a match last week on the show against the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega, and it was a pretty good match, but the outcome was never in doubt. Silver, Reynolds, and Alan Angels never win anything, so it's hard to take them seriously. Maybe they can do segments like that on the show and get people, I don't know. John Silver's a very funny guy. He's easily the funniest out of everyone on that show. Evil Uno's great as well. Brody Lee's, got some comedic chops too. But of those guys, John Silver's had the biggest, strongest showing of everyone in that group on BTE in the last month and a half. If we could see that personality somehow on the show, I would love to see it. I don't know exactly how they incorporate it onto Dynamite. Because again, just as it currently stands, they're, three losers that just get brought in to lose. To the Young Bucks, to this team, to that team, Page and Omega. But yeah, John Silver, if you're not keeping up with BTE, you need to. Because John Silver has been the best part of that show for a while now. And I just wish that more people could see that if they were to put it on Dynamite or to do similar segments on Dynamite. But again, the only issue with doing something like that is that it takes away from the whole brooding feel that the Dark Order is supposed to have. This is supposed to be a group that you need to take seriously, that you're supposed to fear, that you're supposed to be intimidated by, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just not. I'm not. But I think that angle they took on Wednesday's Dynamite, or rather last Saturday, was a good step in the right direction. The issue is that when you do an angle like that, where they attack the Nightmare family and lay him out and do all this other shit, and you're supposed to take these guys seriously, you then can't go back and do comedy with Silver and all these other guys, because it completely defeats the purpose of what they did at the end of Dynamite last week. But still, I agree. I think it would be nice to see more personality from these guys on the show and give them more of a chance to shine. FD from Facebook, his first question was, at the end of SummerSlam, we saw the return of Roman Reigns tearing apart both Braun Strowman and The Fiend Bray Wyatt. However, a lot of wrestling fans noticed that Roman was acting a lot more heelish, and the majority assumed that Roman Reigns has now turned heel. Question is, do you feel that Roman is now a full-fledged heel, like what the majority of fans presumed? And if so, do you feel that the heel turn cemented that WWE finally gave fans what they wanted in his heel turn? Or is it too little too late for him as a heel? Also, do you feel that this new character for Roman will finally elevate him and the WWE product as a whole in the long run? It was not a heel turn. I'm putting this as the headline because so many people are asking this, but it is not a heel turn. If he comes out on Friday and starts going off on the Make-A-Wish Foundation and, it's to spit in a baby's face or something, to punt a baby, then I'd be like, okay, you know what? The guy's a heel now. He's a piece of shit. Nothing we saw on Sunday at SummerSlam gave me any indication that this guy is going heel. Until I see more, I don't get the feeling that the guy's going heel. I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm just saying for people automatically assuming, and listen, I'm the first person that would love to see more of an edge, that would love to see a heel turn from Roman Reigns. It's not something we've seen from him since he broke out on his own from the Shield, now 6 years ago. We saw him as a heel initially, obviously as part of the Shield, but on his own, he's always been a babyface. They should have turned him 5 to 10 other times in the last 6 years. They never did. I don't think they're going to start now. Would it be a fresh opportunity to do so? Absolutely. I think it'd be awesome. I think it'd be perfect to bring him back as a heel, rejuvenate the character. Again, we need to see more on SmackDown to get a better gist as to whether he's a heel or not. It's one of those, innocent until proven guilty. He's a babyface until I get more proof that he's a heel. For example, the attack that he did at TLC 2015, where I think he lost to Sheamus. I was at that pay-per-view, so I probably should know. He lost to Sheamus in the night's main event in the TLC World Championship match to Sheamus. He went berserk, beat the shit out of League of Nations, and he beat the shit out of Triple H. What he showed in that moment looked like a heel turn. It wasn't. It was Roman Reigns getting pissed off, fed up, and just unleashing all that anger on the heels. The last time I checked, Bray Wyatt, The Fiend, and Braun Strowman are not babyfaces. The Fiend is the fucking Fiend, and he has been a heel from day one. Although he is a fan favorite, people like The Fiend. I'm a big fan of The Fiend and Bray Wyatt. He's not a babyface. He has done nothing to make you think that the guy's a babyface from a character standpoint. The same can be said from Braun. Now, Braun is more of a babyface. He has yet to really cement that heel turn. But the thing with Braun is that WWE has gone out of their way in the last month to make this guy look as unlikable as possible. He comes across like a douche. He doesn't give a shit about Alexa Bliss. He's done some despicable things to the Bray Wyatt character, to Alexa Bliss. He just doesn't give a fuck. He has been an unlikable character for a while now, but specifically in the last month. Okay? So why would Roman Reigns beating up this unlikable character make him a heel? If anything, it makes him more of a babyface. Now, what I think they did was giving Roman Reigns more of an edge. I am all for that. We've seen it before from Roman. I think that Roman Reigns is money if you give him more of an edge. If he was to come back out on SmackDown this week, start smiling, oh, the big dog is back. Who gives a fuck, dude? Who gives a shit? It doesn't do anyone any favors. They have a real opportunity here to not reinvent the Roman Reigns character, but give him a fresh coat of paint. I mean, he's got some new teeth now, and that's cool. But I'm talking about, like, new gear, ditch the Shield-looking gear. That was stupid. It's always been dumb. You should have never used it in the first place since they, split off from the Shield. Get rid of the Shield theme music. It's been 6 years now. Move the fuck on. Give them new music. They got to completely go all the way with this. It doesn't necessarily equate to a heel turn, though. I would love to see it. I've seen people speculate, oh, his shirt says, wreck everyone and leave. That means he must be associated with Retribution, blah, blah, blah. I don't buy that for a single second. I really don't. But it would be interesting. I don't know if it'd be great or if it'd be a good move. It would be interesting. So again, he's still a babyface. It's not a heel turn. People are like, oh, he went heel. For fucking what? Because he attacked Bray Wyatt and Braun, both of whom, as he acknowledged in the moment of the show, he has history with, and both guys have made his life a living hell for the last 5 years now. Braun Strowman, for God's sakes, debuted by beating up Roman Reigns on Raw 5 years ago this week. Bray Wyatt and Roman had a long-ass feud for the better part of 2015. Braun and Roman had a long-ass feud for the better part of 2017. So, I mean, and they also feuded in 2018. So, again, with this whole Roman Reigns heel turn shit, he has obvious bad blood and history with these two guys. Why would him attacking them make him a heel? If it was, a clear-cut fan favorite, like a... God, who even is like a clear-cut fan favorite right now? Like a Daniel Bryan, for example. If Daniel Bryan was out there, he beat the shit out of Daniel Bryan, I'd be like, okay, the guy might be a tweener now. Because there's nothing unlikable about Daniel Bryan. Or Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre's been great. He's been a full-fledged babyface throughout his entire reign as WWE champion. And, that him attacking Drew would make sense. Like, okay, he's an asshole. There's no way, like, a heel, like a fellow face would do that unless he has an ulterior motive. You know what I'm saying? Unless there's another reason for him to be attacking Drew. Why would he be attacking Drew for literally no reason? Unless he's an asshole. Unless he's a heel. But he didn't. Braun's unlikable, and The Fiend is a heel. There is no heel turn here. Listen, I will come here on the show next week and eat my words. If he comes out on Friday on SmackDown and says, listen, I don't give a shit about the Make-A-Wish kids. I don't care about anyone but myself. I came back for me, not you guys, blah, 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 blah. The typical heel rant. If he were to do that, then of course I'll come here on the show next week and say, listen, I was wrong. Roman's a heel. At best, he might be a tweener. But SmackDown needs faces anyway. So why would you even turn Roman Reigns? They already have AJ Styles, King Corbin, Braun's practically a heel at this point, and Bray Wyatt's a heel. Why would they turn Roman Reigns heel? Honestly, like if anything, Raw might actually need more top heels than SmackDown does. So I thought that was a little premature of fans to assume that he was heel, despite how his actions came across on the show on Sunday. FD's second question here, do you feel that Retribution has been ruining the WWE main roster shows instead of making people intrigued about the faction, more with potentially them being, your question's all over the place here, young up-and-comers, blah, blah, blah. Do you feel that they need to be unmasked quickly in order to reduce the tension from fans, and who do you feel is certain, or almost certain, to be the members of Retribution? Retribution is absolutely 120% done more to take away from Raw and SmackDown than it has to add to it, in my opinion. Case in point, we had SummerSlam on Sunday. Why they wouldn't strike in one of the biggest shows of the year, I have no idea. From a storyline standpoint, from a booking standpoint, they were nowhere to be seen on that show. It was one of the best, if not the best, WWE pay-per-view all year. So again, this notion that, not that you're saying this, but anyone arguing, oh, Retribution, it's a nice mystery angle, who gives a shit? We've seen this stuff before, the whole faction warfare garbage, who might be behind the attack. I have no faith that WWE is going to pay this off properly. I have no faith after hearing stories as from recently as Rowan. Eric Rowan did Chris Van Vliet's show literally like yesterday or this week or whatever, and he was telling a story about how they had no idea what was going to be inside that cage originally. They had no clue. They were just having him drag it around, hoping for it to be paid off at some point. How do you start an idea without knowing where it's going? You book the end game first, and then you book backward. That just makes more sense. I feel like AEW does that. I feel like a lot of people do that. I mean, AEW also thought that Marty Scurll and friggin' Luther were going to be the Exalted One before Brody Lee ended up with the role. So maybe I'm wrong there, but with WWE, it just feels like with some of the shit for years now, they start an idea, they have no idea where it's going, like the Hacker, for example, they never pay it off, and they completely forget about it. Not saying that Retribution won't be paid off, but it very well may not be. They very well may just not show up one week, and they completely forget about it. I don't think the Raw rating went up this week because of Retribution. I think it went up because of the Thunderdome and because of increased interest coming out of SummerSlam. And Roman Reigns being back, the debut of Keith Lee, a lot of cool things happening. Not because, oh, Retribution's going to be on Raw. Retribution had nothing to do with the fucking pay-per-view on Sunday. And they've been on Raw for like a month now, and the ratings have hardly improved. So Retribution to me is a complete waste of time. It very well may bring Dominic Dijakovic to the main roster. It very well may... I mean, it could be Tommaso Ciampa. I doubt it. Just because he's going to be on NXT tonight. So I'm not banking on that at all. And I'm really hoping it's not. But as we've seen recently, what does the main roster call-up even mean at this point for a lot of these NXT people? Do we want to see people on Raw and SmackDown? I mean, they might be a better fit. They might get more opportunities on Raw and SmackDown than they would in NXT. For someone like a Dijakovic who's been in NXT for 3 years now. But like the main roster booking, specifically with Raw on Monday, was fucking terrible. Keith Lee's debut was totally underwhelming to me. He interrupted Randy Orton. The music sucked. The attire sucked. It was a 4-minute match that wasn't all that good. He lost by DQ, and then he disappeared afterward. What kind of a debut is that? Get the fuck out of here with that shit. So anyway, back to Retribution. No, it has absolutely done more to take away from my enjoyment of the shows than it has added to it. At noob_n_co1991, are you happy that Asuka won the Raw Women's Championship back? I'm pretty excited, and hopefully Asuka will get a great run with the title. You know what? I was hoping that same thing back in May when she won the championship or was awarded the title, whatever, from Becky Lynch. And then she dropped it 2 months later. So I'm not getting my hopes up. I assume she'll drop. I doubt she gets a long reign with it. I think Shayna beating her for that belt is the end game. I am happy that she won it back. I can't say I'm excited, just because we already saw her with the championship previously. You know, she's been a former tag team champion, Raw Women's Champion, SmackDown Women's Champion. It's nice to see her with the title. I'd rather see her with the championship than Sasha Banks, just because Sasha's on SmackDown. Asuka being champion right now makes more sense. I was happy with the result of Sunday's match. I wouldn't say I'm excited, just because what we've seen from her during her last reign didn't give me any reason to think that this reign will be any different. She won the title by winning Money in the Bank. She was essentially awarded the championship by Becky Lynch on the next night's Raw. She had a very lame feud with Nia Jax, where I think their match ended in a draw at Backlash. She had a really good match on Raw with Charlotte Flair. The Sasha feud produced a lot of good matches, but all the finishes sucked up until Sunday. Sunday's match was easily the best of the bunch, if only because the finish was a lot better. And that was about it. So she wasn't booked all that great as the Raw Women's Champion initially. Why would this reign be any different? I would love to think differently, but from what we just saw a month ago, I don't have any more faith for this reign than I did for that one. And I'm hoping I'm wrong. I'm hoping she will hold the championship for more than 2 months and actually do something of note with it. But what do you do with her? Shayna Baszler is apparently now in the tag team title picture. Who else do you put in that number one contender spot? Not Bayley, not Sasha. Let's move the fuck on from that shit. Okay? Who else do you put in that position? Bianca Belair, maybe? I could see that. Ruby, Liv, the Iconics are all tied up doing their own thing. Mickie James, maybe? You know, rekindling that rivalry from NXT, but she's currently busy with Alana and Natalya, who are fucking terrible. I heard Natalya and Asuka was at one point the plan for SummerSlam, which is completely terrible. No, thank you. Natalya is just, no thanks. That's just turn off. Like must-see TV, it's the exact opposite. It's must-not-watch TV tonight, whenever Natalya's on the show. Nia Jax again, no thank you. Shayna's the only one who makes any sort of sense. Unless they bring back Charlotte and they do Asuka and Charlotte next, which they very well could. Otherwise, I don't really know what else to do with Asuka as champion. She should have never dropped it in the first place. You know, her holding it consistently from May up until now, for her to drop it next month would make more sense. For her to drop it now after a month-long reign just makes her look like a loser. She should have never dropped it in the first place. Noob, second question here. What are your thoughts on Roman Reigns' return this past weekend at SummerSlam? I definitely did not see it coming, especially when I saw tweets of him returning. I thought it was a cool moment. The pay-per-view didn't exactly have that you'll never see it coming feel to it. It was a great show. It wasn't exactly shocking. It was probably shockingly great. That's probably, you'll never see it coming. Yeah, I didn't see the fact that it was so good coming either. That's probably what they meant by that. But in all seriousness, though, I thought the Roman Reigns return was a great way to close off the show. You guys know I'm not the biggest Roman Reigns fan, but we need him back in the mix. SmackDown needs names right now. SmackDown could use more top stars. Roman Reigns is that guy. So would I be mad if he beat The Fiend for the belt next Sunday at Payback? Absolutely. But, you know, it's nice to have Roman Reigns back on the show. It's better than having him not on the show. We could use more star power. We could use more top names. So yeah, I was happy to see him back. It was very well done. He came out after the match was over. He laid out both guys and set the stage pretty well for this Sunday's Payback pay-per-view. So yeah, it was cool to see him. He didn't turn heel, but it was still cool to see him nonetheless. Noob's third question. Do you think Sasha Banks and Bayley will retain the women's tag team titles at Payback? Because I don't get this pairing of Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax. I was hoping Shayna Baszler was going after the Raw Women's Championship next after Asuka won the Raw Women's title. That's what I was hoping too, and I know we're not the only ones that expected Asuka and Shayna to be the next feud for that championship. They teamed up last week. You would think, okay, they team up last week, they beat the tag team champions, not get a tag title shot. I mean, at least that would make more sense than Shayna and Nia, which is fucking dumb. It's stupid. I don't want to see it. It's a waste of Shayna. I don't want to see her going after the fucking tag titles. Nia Jax sucks. And like they were just feuding like a day ago. And all of a sudden they're on the same side because they have a common goal in taking the tag title. Since when? Since fucking when, you know? But anyway, with Shayna Baszler, yeah, she really should have faced Asuka. She came out on Raw, 2 to 3 weeks ago? She confronted Asuka and said, listen, I want you to win at Summer. This is literally what she said on the show. Not a backstage exclusive, not in a tweet. She came out on Raw. And she said, I want you, Asuka, to win the Raw Women's Championship back at SummerSlam so I can beat you for that title. Then why is she going after the tag titles? Asuka is wide open right now. She has no feuds. She has beaten Sasha on back-to-back nights. She beat her at SummerSlam. She beat her on Raw. That feud is done, over with. Let's move the hell on. So why? I don't get it. I don't get it. Shayna and Nia, why would you give them a tag team title shot when you already have the Riot Squad? Maybe they want to build to a Riot Squad title win, but listen, they don't give a shit about building people up. They did Rey Mysterio and Dominic teaming up for the first time ever on Raw with a non-finish in the main event without building it up for Payback or another pay-per-view. They don't give a fuck about building shit up. They don't care. So then, I don't get it. I just don't understand. I don't understand why you would do that. So just give the Riot Squad the win. They should have gotten that tag team title shot. They should have won the belts. I'm not the biggest Riot Squad fan, but I'm a bigger fan of theirs than I am Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler. That's exactly what I was fearing they would do when Shayna and Nia had that mini match on Raw like a month ago that ended in like a no contest. That's exactly what I said at the time about a potential tag team. I don't want to see it. It looked like they were, steering away from it. And now they're right back to where they were with them potentially teaming up. And now they are teaming up on Sunday. I just don't care. At Iwagu91 from Twitter, your thoughts on a fan showing the infamous last photo of Chris Benoit on Raw this past Monday night? It was just disgusting. I already talked about this earlier, but, fuck fans and how terrible they can be. I mean, you're just ruining the whole thing for everybody. Because the more this shit happens, I'm not exactly sure what purpose it's supposed to serve. To make two people on the internet laugh? Like, who cares, dude? Like, who even cares? Like, I'm all for, like, a harmless joke or, like, the whole Fire Velveteen Dream thing. Someone put up a sign saying that on the show this week. That was kind of funny just because there's a lot of, probably not funny for Velveteen Dream, but, like, there's actual reason to do something like that. For Chris Benoit and the KKK shit, that's not even a wrestling thing. The KKK stuff is, or isn't. The Benoit stuff is. That's just fucking dumb. It's childish, immature, stupid. Come on. It just. I thought we were past that point of doing shit like that. So it's just fucking gross. Like, for example, if you were to put up a picture of, I don't know. I'm sure that like a Shrek thing. Listen, people put up pictures of Mario. They put up a picture of Pikachu. That's funny. I'm all for that shit. I think that's great. To put up a picture of the KKK or someone being decapitated is fucking disgusting. No one should have to see that, especially kids who watch the show. Just stop. So I thought that was bad. Do you feel that Rey and Dominic Mysterio should become tag team champions? Absolutely, at some point. Absolutely. I thought Angel Garza and Andrade would win the tag team titles, so Rey Mysterio and Dominic could eventually beat them for those belts. We didn't get that. But, eventually, absolutely, I want to see them with the tag team titles. I guess they could always beat the Street Profits. I don't want to see it happen anytime soon. I would wait for that a little bit. I would build up to it a little bit more, give Dominic some more matches before he's winning a tag title. But still, I would like to see something like that. I think it'd be pretty cool. So, hopefully that's the endgame of this whole thing. Does it amaze you that in their 40s, Undertaker and Shawn Michaels stole WrestleMania 25 and WrestleMania 26? It doesn't surprise me just because they are as good as they are. If you said they were in their 50s, that's one thing. 40s, especially back in 09 and 2010, wasn't that old. Like Triple H was in his 40s at that point. He was 41. He was still having good matches. There weren't exactly a lot of young up-and-comers on top at that point. Edge was no young up-and-comer. Randy Orton, Cena were all in their 30s by that point. So it doesn't exactly surprise me, especially considering who it was, Michaels and Taker, especially after their first Hell in a Cell match in 97. That was absolutely amazing. So it doesn't really amaze me so much as it is slightly impressive just given their age. But again, if we're talking 40s here. That is older in wrestling terms, but not as old as like a 50 or a 60. The Rock and Roll Express going out there and doing what they do, and they're not in their prime by any means, but the fact they could still go out there and do some pretty kick-ass stuff, that to me amazes me. When they're both like 50, 60 years old, that to me is amazing. At RJ Marceau, RJ_Marceau, Mr. Marceau's first question was, who would have had a bigger impact if they didn't leave the WWE? Bret Hart when he left in 1997, or Brock Lesnar when he left in 2004? That's a great question. I gotta go with Brock Lesnar. I feel like with Bret, how much more could he really have done? How much more of an impact could he really have had in WWE had he stayed? Like, honestly, he probably could have had a lot more, some great matches and whatnot with people like, more matches with Stone Cold, matches with The Rock, Triple H, people like that. Would he have had a major impact? I don't think so. Stone Cold was already getting hot by 97 because of Bret Hart in the match they had at WrestleMania. Shawn Michaels was on his way out. They already had The Undertaker. Triple H was on his way up. They had Mick Foley. He would have been a big star, no doubt, but he would not have had the same impact that he did in the mid-90s. Because in the mid-90s, they had practically nobody. It was him, Shawn, Diesel. And I say that like as a couple notches down from Bret and Shawn. And then from that point, the well runs dry. So in the late 90s, in the Attitude Era, it was as stacked as it was. Imagine Shawn and Bret being a part of that. And I think they would have done well, but not as well as they did years earlier when they were like the only two top stars on top. After Hogan left and before the Austins and the Rocks and the Triple H's and the Takers and people like that. So I got to go with Brock. '05 and whatnot had a lot of top stars coming up. People like Cena, Edge, Orton, Batista, Rey Mysterio, people like that. But I feel like part of the reason why they started pushing those people at a top spot, at a top level, was because Brock left. Was because they lost Goldberg and Brock in '04. Brock was only there for 2 years. Again, you can ask the same question about him. What more could he have done? He was already a 3-time WWE champion. The guy could have been a top star in SmackDown for years to come. I mean, Roman also was a 3-time WWE champion by fucking 2015. What if he left in 2016, And he's already accomplished a lot more since then. So, definitely Brock. Brock would have helped continue to legitimize SmackDown, be the top pillar over there, I would assume. Maybe go back to Raw at some point. And had Brock stuck around, there's a very good chance we would have not gotten John Cena or a Batista. Definitely not Batista. As the next big thing in WWE. I think a big reason behind Batista's push was because we didn't have that monster on top anymore in Brock Lesnar. Randy Orton certainly would not have won the World Heavyweight Championship when he did. A big reason, if not the only reason, why Randy won the World Championship at SummerSlam was because Brock was already the youngest world champion in WWE history. By putting the belt on Orton at SummerSlam 2 years later, he then became the youngest world champion in WWE history. Literally months after Brock left. That was no coincidence. They definitely did that despite Brock break that record so Brock wouldn't have to be talked about anymore, blah, blah, blah. In '04, they put the belt on Benoit and Eddie Guerrero, who were amazing, two of the greatest of all time. But they did that because they were in a transitional period. JBL certainly would not have fucking been the WWE champion for as long as he was if Brock was still around. '04 SmackDown, while it was a good show, was desolate in terms of top stars. Edge was out injured. Brock Lesnar was gone. Goldberg was on Raw, but he had already left as well, assuming like he had stayed and gone to SmackDown or something. Taker was kind of starting to rebuild himself as the Phenom. Kurt was out injured for a time. He went over to Raw at a certain point. They were building up Ray. They were building up Orton. He was over on Raw. Evolution had Raw. Raw rather had Evolution. SmackDown didn't really have much. They had the slim pickings of Eddie Guerrero and JBL. So absolutely Brock Lesnar would have won 10 more fucking titles like he has since he came back in 2012. The guy's what now? 8-time champion? He was a 3-time champion then, not counting the UFC championship, which I think he won once or twice. He has since won the WWE and Universal titles, 5 times? He had to have been, because he won it in 2015. He won it in 2014, lost it in 2015. He got it back he won the Universal Championship in 2017, and then he held that until SummerSlam, got it back in late 2018, so that's 3. Lost that at WrestleMania, held the Universal Championship again very briefly in the summer of last year, and then he won the WWE Championship from Kofi late last year as well. So another 5 reigns on top of the 3 he already had, an 8-time world champion. He's already won more titles in the last 8 years, in the last 5 years, than he did in 2 when he was here originally a couple of years ago. So, a decade or 2 ago, whatever. But Brock Lesnar, absolutely. RJ's second question, thoughts on the Blazers' chances now that Damian Lillard is out with a knee injury? Not good. Definitely not good. Damian Lillard is a star. He's a great up-and-comer, a nice blue chipper for the Blazers. This hurts their chances in the playoffs quite a bit. Damian Lillard has been an absolute standout since the start of the season. I would argue, up there with Devin Booker, as one of the Bubbles MVPs. So the fact that he's out hurt, the timing could not be worse. I will say that the only positives to this whole Damian Lillard injury could be that it presents opportunity for other people. People like C.J. McCollum or Efrain Simmons, Gary Trent Jr. People like that on the Blazers, I think could really benefit from joining the squad more often. I know that sounds oddly worded, but getting more time in the court, honing their skills, filling in that vacancy that Lillard leaves behind because of the injury. I don't think it's going to make up for it tenfold at all. I think the Blazers are good enough where their chances aren't completely in the toilet. But that being said, this definitely hurts their chances significantly. I would not put my money on the Blazers going all the way now. If Lillard is out for the rest of the season, if he's out for the playoffs, they're screwed. I know he's out for their next game with this injury. Hopefully it's not too serious. But I'm expecting it to not be too good. I'm expecting him to not be back for the rest of the season. And if he's not, the Blazers are going to be hurting. So, hopefully this does present opportunity, like I said, for other up-and-comers on the team. But at the age of 30, Lillard has the rest of his career ahead of him. He has a very bright future. He's really, really good. And he's been an MVP for the Blazers all season long. But again, the timing could not be worse. That's like friggin' losing Drew McIntyre on the road to WrestleMania. That's a big blow to the team. That's a big blow to the company. Anyway, here's wishing Lillard a speedy recovery and all the best to the Blazers, who are certainly going to need it if Lillard's not on the team for the playoffs. Next question comes from @Jeremy8911 from Twitter. If an already known star is revealed as the leader of Retribution, should it be The Miz, Sami Zayn, or Roman Reigns? I mean, ideally Roman Reigns would be cool, but like, how do you explain that one? Why would Roman want to lead a faction? I know he was a part of the faction, a couple of years ago, in something called The Shield. You may have heard of it. Maybe, and I've seen other people bring up, maybe he felt disrespected by WWE completely ignoring him while he was gone, or not giving him his rightful Universal Championship match, which he's getting on Sunday. So it's not Roman Reigns-like for him to do something like that. It would be cool, like, oh, I was the one, Austin, I was behind it all along, ha ha ha, like the Vince McMahon type reveal 20 years ago. I just don't see that happening, though. I just don't think Roman, he just doesn't really make sense. I mean, it would be a cool reveal, but like, it's got to make sense. That to me just doesn't make sense. The Miz, yeah, that would make sense given how odd he's been acting recently. But unlike Roman, he's just not a good fit. You know, I think Miz, it's like, okay, it's the fucking Miz. Like, I love the Miz, but would people really care? Like, could he be like a mole? I could see that. I don't know if I see him being the leader. Of the three, Sami Zayn to me would be the best choice. Just because he was already doing a gimmick similar to the whole Retribution thing before he took time off. The whole, not to sound like CM Punk, but the whole voice of the voiceless thing. Speak your voice, whatever. The whole thing that Sami was doing before he left was very much like what Retribution could be doing if they go that direction. The whole like, oh, rebel against the system, blah, blah, blah. I don't like Sami as a heel. I think he's a way better babyface, but if they are going to keep him heel, I think having him be the leader, having him be the leader of Retribution would be kind of cool. He's pulling the strings from the outside, not the outside, but like from the sidelines, being out the last couple of months. He could say, listen, I took time. I mean, he's not going to say I took time off for COVID, but he could say, listen, I took time off and I haven't been here, and you stripped my Intercontinental Championship away from me. Why? That wasn't a choice that I, partook in, and Sami was obviously frustrated by that on Twitter, which I assume was a character thing a couple of months ago. But at any rate, though, they could absolutely explain that Sami was frustrated with having the Intercontinental Championship taken from him, and that's why he's wreaking havoc on Raw and SmackDown right now. So yeah, Sami would make sense. I hope there is a higher power to this whole thing, someone that is logical, and someone that fans would care about. Because if it's someone like a fucking Mojo Rawley or something, I mean, the angle already is doomed, but that would even bury it 6 feet further into the ground. Because, like, who the hell could possibly care about someone like a Mojo Rawley, or, like, even Mustafa Ali, I think would be cool, but, like, would people really care is my question. I don't think so. I really don't. Ciampa would be cool, but I just don't want him on the main roster. Especially after seeing what they did with Keith Lee on Monday's Raw. Yeah, no thanks. At Reborn Again from Twitter, their first question was, John Ritland, of course, forgot to mention that. Check out his YouTube channel, Real Honesty with John Ritland, always does great content. His first question was, am I the only one who didn't care for the end of Dynamite this past week? They hyped up a couple of good things for All Out, but that ending was just ridiculous. You might be in the minority there. I will say that I actually like the ending as well. I am with the majority here in liking the ending of Dynamite on Saturday night. I thought Brody Lee taking the championship was definitely unexpected. I was hoping Cody would hold on to it for a little longer. I know it's been 3 months. I was hoping, though, as many other people have said, that a more, I don't want to say homegrown star, but yeah, homegrown star would beat Cody for the championship. Someone like a Darby Allin, a Scorpio Sky, someone that could actually benefit from beating Cody. Brody benefited, and Brody needed a major win. I haven't been a big fan of Brody as like the leader of the Dark Order. I know, John, you don't give a shit about the Dark Order, and again, you're not alone in feeling that way. And I think a lot of people like that ending because it was unexpected. It gave off John Cena, Brock Lesnar, SummerSlam 2014 vibes, which I liked. It was shocking. So we'll see where they go with it. I wasn't in love with it. I thought it was cool. For me, it's all about the aftermath. If Brody is a shit champion, then taking the belt off of Cody was a dumb idea. Apparently he has to go off and film something, and maybe when they bring him back, he'll go heel. I can't say I give a shit about a, what's it called? A fucking Dark Order versus Nightmare Family rivalry. I could give two shits about that. I could care less about seeing John Silver, Alex Reynolds, or Alan Angels face QT Marshall and Dustin Rhodes. Who cares? Or Anna Jay versus Brandy Rhodes. Who gives a fuck? But, yeah, I like the ending, though. They are obviously trying to make the Dark Order a thing. Like, in Mean Girls, they're trying to make the word fetch a thing. AEW is desperately trying to make Dark Order a thing. And whether you like it or not, the effort was there. So I appreciated that. I liked the ending. We'll see where they go with it. If Brody, again, is a shit champion, he doesn't defend it, the matches are just underwhelming, then I'll think twice about it. Then my thoughts will be different. But my immediate reaction was, okay, I'm willing to see where this goes. Because the Dark Order specifically on me, at least personally, has grown on me. I am willing to give this whole thing a chance. They just don't come across like a major threat, but that angle that they did on the end of Dynamite this week, or last weekend rather, was a step in the right direction. So we'll see where they go with it. John's second question here. What are your thoughts on Thunder Rosa, is that good enough, versus Sakura Shida happening at All Out? I feel that if they're given 12 to 15 minutes, they could steal the show. Yeah, that's fucking awesome. That was the best part of the entire show for me. The best part of Dynamite on Saturday was not the Brody Lee title win or anything else that happened. It was the announcement that Thunder Rosa is going to be not only at All Out, but facing Hikaru Shida for the AEW Women's Championship. If that match is just dull, I would be shocked. Because Shida is great. She had a great match with Penelope Ford, who's still a major work in progress. So if she and Ford could have a really good match, I have no doubt that if given the right amount of time, as you said, she and Rosa could kill it as well. Thunder Rosa, I've been familiar with her for a while. I definitely mentioned her here before in the show when I said, AEW would benefit from having an Allison Kay or a Thunder Rosa, blah, blah, blah. And I'm far from the only one who mentioned that. So the fact they did it was cool. But I know I mentioned here on an episode a couple of weeks ago that she used to be, I think, Cobra Moon, I want to say, in Lucha Underground. I could give two shits about her at that point. But she has grown on me big time since I've seen her in NWA. Now she's the women's champion that she has been for a little while now. Obviously no one's having any, there's no championships changing hands because the show isn't running and hasn't run since like March. But that being said, I think she won the championship in January or something like that. She is really, really good. Thunder Rosa is one of the best women out there not signed to AEW or WWE. So I love seeing her pop up on AEW Dynamite last week. I thought it was a really cool thing to see, especially seeing another promotion's top champion. And I'm not talking about like fucking GCW or even MLW. Like, I don't really give a shit. I don't really care about those promotions. I'm talking about a major company like the NWA or Ring of Honor or WWE or New Japan, whatever. Seeing crossovers between those promotions is a big deal. And it's not like a Ricky Stark situation where he left one company and joined the other one. Thunder Rosa, as far as we know, is still in the NWA. They fucking called her the NWA Women's Champion. So I would assume that she's still technically there. They asked Billy Corgan if it was cool. He agreed. I'm sure his only caveat was, plug the fact that she's the NWA Women's Champion, which I think is awesome. And, go from there. So I thought that was awesome. I'm a big fan of the move. I'm really looking forward to that match, probably more than any other of the show coming up next weekend. But, I'm hoping they get the time they deserve because they could really kill it if they do. John's next question here. Between NXT and Dynamite, which do you feel has been the more consistently good show this year? That's a good question. I think I've answered this before, but I'm going to go Dynamite. And I'm not always the biggest Dynamite fan, and I am a bigger NXT fan. But it's hard to argue that Dynamite just has had better shows. Specifically, we're talking this year. If you asked me a year ago, like late 2019, I probably would have said NXT. But during the COVID era with no crowds, Dynamite can get away with not having a crowd, or at least having the certain setup that they do. NXT being a Full Sail with no real audience, only having the PC recruits, absolutely takes away from the shows. The crowds were a big reason those shows were as entertaining as they were. So you take away the audience, it's not nearly the same. The shows are still solid, they're still good, feature some solid wrestling, storyline development, character development, promo, stuff like that. But Dynamite feels more must-see. I'm going to be honest with you. NXT tonight I'm really looking forward to. It's Karrion Kross's first night as NXT champion. I'm sure we'll get an update on his injury. We're going to have Tommaso Ciampa returning, which is cool. We're getting an NXT Tag Team title match, Imperium versus Breezango. And then we're also getting Santos Escobar versus Isaiah Swerve Scott for the NXT Cruiserweight Championship, which is cool. So I'm looking forward to tonight, but by and large, though, Dynamite to me usually has more of a must-see feel. And Dynamite usually does all the right things. Some of their shows are better than others. Maybe it's just the atmosphere or the people they have on the show. I don't know. But NXT, while it is a good show, I don't always feel the need to go out of my way to watch NXT. I mean, I always watch the show anyway, but if I have a choice between watching one or the other, I usually go with Dynamite because it usually has more things, first of all, advertised, which they're doing a better job of now with NXT. And second of all, just having that you never know what might happen feel. I don't get that as often with NXT, at least in my opinion, without crowds being there. At Colin_McAndrew from Twitter, his question was, it seems fitting for Retribution to reveal themselves at Payback. If they don't, when do you think that they should? I think so. I mean, Retribution is a synonym for Payback, so it would make the most sense. But not only that, though, for the betterment of the storyline, just to get it the fuck over with and move on, reveal the people so we can move on to the next stage. Having them come out and wreak havoc, attack people, blah, 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 does nothing for nobody. It doesn't make me want to tune into the shows. It doesn't make me hate Retribution. It just makes me not care. We've seen this a million times. We got to get to the next stage here. And I think they're merely stalling because the company themselves doesn't know who's going to be under the masks. So yes, Payback would be great, if only because Retribution does mean payback, so why the hell not? And if they want a big angle for that show, that would be it. I don't think they will, though. I really don't. I think they're going to drag this out as long as possible, like the hacker thing. They dragged that out forever, and there was never really a payoff to that. There wasn't a payoff. Not even really. There just wasn't. There was no payoff to that storyline. I feel like there will be to this one. It just won't be worthwhile, but I don't think it's coming on Sunday. They've only been doing it for a month. In WWE world, they usually drag shit like this on for like 3 or 4 months before they finally give any sort of a hint as to who could be under the masks. So, no, I don't see it happening. I would just do it because A, it makes sense, and B, just to get it over with. But I don't have faith that's going to happen. Let's see. At E13A from Twitter, how do you feel about the WWE Thunderdome Atmosphere? I like it a lot. Personally, I find it to be a major improvement over the Performance Center, just in terms of the atmosphere and whatnot. It's not perfect. Of course, we already talked about the dumb fans ruining it for other people. But as far as, just having noise helps. And I know the PC recruits were there to help add noise, but the constant banging and shit was completely obnoxious. And you could probably hear that in the background as well. Not just that, but there's been banging throughout this entire video. You could probably hear it in the background. I'm having work at my house. I said that at the start. It's pretty much like that. I feel like I'm in the WWE Performance Center in the ring, and the NXT recruits are knocking on the fucking glass outside my house. That's basically what it feels like. And I'm glad we don't have that anymore. It is a cool visual at any other angle but the hard camera view. I will say that. And it's nice. It's nice to have that ambiance, that atmosphere, that energy. Even though you can't hear the fans on the screens, which is probably for the better, it's a major improvement. Having the pyro back, the major stage, it gives the shows a bigger feel. It's a much bigger feel than we saw at the PC, with no fans, with fans, whatever, with PC recruits, whatever. So anyway, I like it a lot. I think it's a major improvement. Again, not perfect at all. One of my criticisms, I mean, they did improve upon this. From SummerSlam from SmackDown to SummerSlam last weekend. I thought SummerSlam, they kind of improved the experience a bit, ever so slightly. But the noise during the matches, I have no issue with. The whole, people were saying, oh, it sounds like WWE 2K, and it sounds like they just took noises from the games and shit. And they probably did. And I have no issue with that personally. It adds added background noise. As long as it fluctuates and it, they amp up the cheers and the boos for certain things and whatnot, then I'm all for that. But the noise they would pipe in during the promos is so annoying. Because in real life, people will not be making that much noise. There is some, buzzing going on in the audience during promos. Sometimes people just sit on their hands. Where's that effect? Where's people just sitting on their hands for stuff like that, Not that it should be completely silent, but it should be a lot quieter than it is. During Bayley's promo on SummerSlam, she was talking, and not that we couldn't hear what she was saying, but it was so distracting to hear the boo. You would never hear that. Maybe during a Vicky Guerrero promo 10 years ago, but in 2020, how often is it that someone cuts a promo and they're being booed from start to finish? That is so rare. So I thought that was annoying. They got to improve upon that. But other than that, though, I like the atmosphere. I like the energy. And to me, it is a vast improvement over what we were getting at the Performance Center, which is just, it felt like they were rehearsing. It felt like they were in practice. And if I'm not a wrestling fan and I tune out of USA on a Monday night by accident and I see that, I'm like, why would I want to watch this? There's no pyro. There's no big fight feel to any of the matches just because of the environment. So again, I think it's a major step in the right direction, and hopefully it pays off and they can weed out all the issues with it, and they can kind of work on the growing pains in the weeks and months ahead. And it turns out to be a pretty cool thing when all is said and done, and hopefully it can stick around for as long as possible, and so we can get actual fans back in the buildings. Let's see. His next question. Do you think Jeff Hardy winning the IC Championship was a way to test out Pops, quote-unquote, from the Thunderdome? Not going to lie, I had a feeling the title change was going to happen and decided to watch SmackDown Live just to see how it would go over with the crowd, quote-unquote. Yeah, that would make sense. I could see them booking that for a few reasons. For that one reason. And I also thought they might do it just to get more people invested in the Thunderdome concept and just to see how it would go over. And SmackDown, they had a pretty good rating on Friday night, probably due to people finding out the Thunderdome thing, and they're like, oh, I want to check this out. I'm interested to see how it looks, how it comes across, blah, blah, blah. And booking a title change makes people want to tune in for the next week's show to see what's going to happen next. So, not that it was smart. I still would have saved it for SummerSlam. They could have done that with another angle. But yeah, they may have done it to test the pop, the reaction, to see how it goes over. And also to get people to continue tuning into SmackDown for anyone new or anyone coming back to SmackDown that hasn't tuned in a while due to the current circumstances. So it wasn't a terrible idea. It just kind of came across as a bit anticlimactic. But yeah, I could absolutely see that as being one of the reasons why they did that on Friday night. His last question here. Do you know about the Shrek is Love, Shrek is Life meme? Of course I do. My roommate in college, 5 or 6 years ago, showed me that video. Scarred me for life, but yes, I'm aware of the meme. I'm pretty sure I've referenced it here on the video before. I mean, I've gotten a lot of Shrek questions lately, which is bizarre, but yes, I'm well aware of the meme, and if you don't know what it is, it's probably better that you don't. And if you do want to go out of your way to check it out, just be warned, watch the video with headphones. That's all I'll say. At Scarlet1 from Twitter, we'll finish off with their questions here. Best and worst of NXT TakeOver and WWE SummerSlam. The thing is, with both shows, I thought both shows were really good to great. Honestly, I thought SummerSlam was a better show than TakeOver. And I think a big reason for that was the fact that it emanated from the Thunderdome, and the atmosphere was just way better. So both shows were really good. There really wasn't a lot of bad in either show at all. Honestly, the only worst I have to share here, the only real worst of anything I have to share, is Apollo Crews and MVP, which was far from bad, but it wasn't exciting. It was a match we've seen before. It was solid, but not great. That would be the weakest, I guess, of SummerSlam, and even that was on the kickoff show. And then even Street Profits versus Andrade and Angel Garza. And again, I really enjoyed the match. I thought it was a fun tag team match. Didn't feel like it was anything special. It could have happened on Raw, and it really wouldn't have made much of a difference, but I guess that was one of the weaker matches of the show on Sunday. That was really about it. There were no bad matches at TakeOver. Some were better than others, but overall it was a good show. The best of both shows I really enjoyed from TakeOver first, the ladder match, that Damian Priest won to become the new NXT North American Champion. I really enjoyed Adam Cole and Pat McAfee. I thought that was a great match. McAfee put in a hell of a performance. I thought that was a really, really fun match, and probably my favorite of the entire show, to be honest with you. It was a lot better than I thought it would be. And Io Shirai versus Dakota Kai. I thought that match was really good, too, for the NXT Women's Championship. And that's not to discredit the other two matches. Finn Balor versus Timothy Thatcher was also well wrestled, solid opener. In the main event, Keith Lee and Karrion Kross was good, too. It was a good match, not exactly my favorite match. I enjoyed it, but it wasn't my favorite match of the night. It wasn't overly exciting, but it wasn't really intended to. So I thought it was good with the right result. I wanted Keith Lee to have a longer reign, but clearly they had, their sights set on calling him up on Raw, on Monday this week, on Monday's Raw a couple days ago. So yeah, the right results with Karrion Kross remaining undefeated and remaining unstoppable as the new NXT champion. From SummerSlam, I enjoyed the entire show. I thought it was a really, really great show. Roman Reigns returning was cool too. But the best parts of SummerSlam in ring-wise were, in my opinion, Seth Rollins versus Dominic Mysterio. Great street fight. Dominic looked great, a lot like Pat McAfee did on Saturday. Really, really good stuff there. The second match, Drew McIntyre versus Randy Orton for the WWE Championship. I was expecting a good match. I was looking forward to the match. It over-delivered, in my opinion. It was better than I thought it would be. Orton's matches, when it comes to big stages, they aren't always the greatest. His WrestleMania match with Edge last year, or this past year, kind of a disappointment. His WWE Championship match with Kofi Kingston last year at SummerSlam, kind of a disappointment, a bit underwhelming. This was great, though. They kept it moving. The pace was great. Very good chemistry. McIntyre won clean. Didn't love the backslide finish, but hey, Drew won. Can't complain. Great match. And then also Sasha Banks and Asuka, I thought had a really, really good match. Like I said earlier, the best of the 3 matches they've had up to this point. Actually, I guess 4, because they had one on Raw this week. But I liked the one at SummerSlam because it was a great match. It told a good story. Asuka went over as she should have. And it was everything it needed to be. So, I'm really glad the whole show was as good as it was. I was disappointed that Raw was just as bad as it was. How do you go from having a great SummerSlam pay-per-view to having a shitfest for Raw the very next night? That, to me, doesn't make any sense. I thoroughly enjoyed Asuka and Banks, McIntyre, Orton, Dominic, Rollins, and just the entire show was a blast, as well as TakeOver, a great weekend of wrestling, including Dynamite on Saturday. Scarlett's second question, did you hear about Sonya Deville almost being kidnapped and going to court? I thought I talked about this last week, but either way, it's a very scary incident. Here's hoping I'm sure she's not okay, but, doing better than she was initially. I think the idea to have her take time off was a smart one, just because she can kind of focus on other stuff, do whatever, reset her mind, relax, chill out, whatever, not have to worry about doing the shows and whatever. So it was probably the best decision. It does suck just because she was on a roll creatively on SmackDown up until SummerSlam, so it is a bummer to see her leave for right now, but I'm sure she will be back. And the whole thing is just, the more details that I read about the whole thing that happened last weekend, not this weekend, but the weekend before that, with Sonya and Mandy being involved and the stalker, it just gets scarier and scarier. Like, the guy got in the house, he was standing right outside of her fucking door. He went upstairs to chase after her. It could have been a lot worse if he chased after them into the garage. He had like a knife with him, a single condom, like duct tape. It was just really scary shit. They got really lucky. And they were smart to get the hell out of Dodge, too. Both her and Mandy. So the whole thing is really scary. Hey, listen, I'm scared, and no one's ever broken into my house. And I'm scared of someone. We're always scared of that. When the lights are out and you're by yourself, and granted, I think this was during the day, and especially at their level, too, to be a celebrity, and we're always fearing that, that you're very vulnerable at your own house. Let's put it that way, especially if you're a celebrity. So the guy's just a fucking nut job. He was psycho. I'm glad they denied him bail. That's great. But hopefully he goes away for a long, 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 long time, if not forever. Because people like that do not deserve to walk among society. They are a danger to society. People like Sonya, me, you, everybody. Those people are psycho. We do not need them out in the open. So the whole thing is terrible. I'm glad she's okay, though, for the most part. And hopefully she gets the time off that she needs and just get better and recuperate and bounce back. Their next question, how do you feel about Keith Lee's Raw debut and his change in attire and theme music? I know he did reply to it on Twitter on Tuesday saying, oh, don't worry about it, I'll fix it, blah, blah, blah. I saw something this morning that said that he might be getting an updated theme as soon as Sunday at Payback, which is cool. But they should have never had him come out with that dumb music in the first place. I'm going to go on a whole rant about this on my own show on Thursday. I won't rant about it here. I can go on for like 10 minutes about this shit. But first of all, theme music does make a difference. Second of all, we're known for him to having a certain theme. And it's not like he had a theme before, and he like Samoa Joe, for example. He came into NXT for his debut 5 years ago. His first theme sucked. It was terrible. But there wasn't really anything to go off of. He had other themes in other companies and whatever. But it's not like he had a theme in WWE. It's not like he had that awesome theme that he does now in NXT, and they had to change it when he got to the main roster. You know what I mean? So it's just, I think the whole thing is just stupid. I don't buy the CFO money bullshit because there's so many other people on the main roster who have CFO songs. Why wouldn't they change those songs first? I don't know. I don't buy that for a second. So I thought that was bullshit. People were like, oh, Keith Lee signed off on it. Of course he fucking did. Why would he say no? Why would he say no as in, oh, I'm not going to do that? You just got called up. He's a nice guy. Why would he say no? Clearly he's going to say yes, obviously. So people defending WWE, I don't want to hear it. It was stupid. They changed things for the sake of changing shit. and I don't care what the new theme sounds like. It might be an improvement, but the theme was great as it was. There was no need to change it, and it took me out of the moment. Because all I'm going to remember from Monday is not the fact that he confronted Randy Orton. It was the fact that the theme song was as bad and as generic as it was. It came off as a poor man's Brock Lesnar song. There's only one Brock Lesnar. Leave Keith Lee to have his own music. Like, if he came out with that song in the Royal Rumble, for example, people would have been pissed then too. But he came out with his own song. People were going crazy. And another thing that doesn't make any sense, we've had Bianca Belair, the Forgotten Sons, and Matt Riddle as recently as a month or two ago debut on the main roster with CFO songs. Why weren't they given new themes? Why Keith Lee? So get the fuck out of here with the CFO money bullshit. I don't buy that for a single second. I think it's WWE just changing shit for the sake of changing it. I don't agree with it. I thought it was stupid. The attire looked bad. Even if Keith did sign off on that, it looked terrible. I thought they put a shirt on him because Vince McMahon thought he looked fat, which is very possible, and I honestly expect that to be the case. I don't know. I know, I was discussing with Alexis yesterday, and she brought up how, Otis doesn't wear a shirt usually, Samoa Joe doesn't. I don't know. I'm not really sure. I thought it was very odd that on his first night on Raw, that he would be wearing a shirt and like baggy pants because he's fat, and I don't understand. Like, I know Kevin Owens, that look works for him. It doesn't work for Keith Lee. There was no reason to change what worked in NXT. Why fix something that isn't broken? That makes zero sense. Final question, how did you feel about Saturday Night Dynamite? I thought it was good. It wasn't the greatest Dynamite in a while. It wasn't a strong show overall. But as I said earlier, I liked what they did with the main event with Cody and Brody Lee just dominating Cody to win the TNT title. I thought that was well done. I liked the Thunder Rosa announcement. That was awesome. I liked the Tully Blanchard FTR move to put Tully with FTR. I think that was cool. I loved FTR, and I didn't love it, but I thought it was a really good match, FTR and Private Party. What I was gonna say, I didn't love the 8-man tag team match? Who was it? Jungle Boy, Luchasaurus, and Natural Nightmares, I think? Versus Butcher and Blade and, Lucha House Party. Fucking Lucha Brothers, I'm sorry. Two totally different teams there. Lucha Brothers and the Butcher and the Blade. Didn't love the match. It was kind of a mess. The Eddie Kingston thing I kind of like. Him being their manager. I don't give a shit about Butcher and Blade. I really don't. Like John Ritland's Dark Order. That's my Butcher and Blade. They're decent in the ring. I don't give a fuck about those guys, though. So Eddie Kingston managing them, no thank you. I would rather, Eddie Kingston stay exclusive to the Lucha Brothers, personally. The Deadly Draw match wasn't that good. I'm glad Ivelisse and Diamante won. I was very happy about that. The match itself was not great. Brandy Rhodes and Allie are fucking terrible as a team. Brandy Rhodes just sucks in general, and she just makes Allie worse. I didn't love the show, but there were points I did like. I thought the Thunder Rosa announcement, the Tully Blanchard thing with FTR, the opening, and the closing segment were what made the show for me. And that's going to do it, guys, for today's episode of #AskGSM, episode 352 for Wednesday, August 26, 2020. Thank you guys for checking out the show, as always, and listening. I appreciate it, as well as bearing with me as I have work done on my house. There's a lot of noises going on behind me. It's been annoying for me to record this for the last hour with all these noises going on above me, around me, beside me. It's terrible, but didn't really have much of a choice. So hopefully it wasn't too much of an annoyance for you listening to the show. And hopefully next week will be better. The work should be done in the next couple weeks, so really not much I could do there. But aside from that, though, hope you guys are doing well, enjoying your week. And there's a lot of wrestling to look forward to in the week to come, including Payback on Sunday. So when we come back here on the show next Wednesday, going to have a lot to talk about in regards to the Payback pay-per-view and a lot more. So start sending your questions now, next week, whatever. The deadline, I would say, is usually early Wednesday morning, if not late Tuesday night. I usually record these videos, like last week was an exception, but I usually record like early Wednesdays. So be sure to get in your questions before then by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the #AskGSM. Find me on Facebook as well, facebook.com/Graham.gsm.Matthews. Drop a question I usually put up, or drop your question on the post that I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not on the wall itself. And last but certainly not least, drop your question down below in the comments section on this very video. I'll include your question in next week's edition. With all that being said, guys, have an awesome one. I'm Graham GSM Matthews. Enjoy the rest of your summer, and I'll catch your ass down the road.